Chapter 3.3 is talking about percentiles and box and whisker plots. So the first thing is an understanding of what a percentile is. It's a value such that P% of the data fall at or below a particular value, and that's the key there, at or below. So let's say you're given the example that you scored a 90% on your first statistics test. So that's the grade that would go on Blackboard. That's the grade that would go in my grade book. But you're also given that this was the 82nd percentile. Now, this number does not go in the grade book. What this number tells me is the percentage of people that scored at or below your particular score. So 82% of the students scored below your 90%. So what scored above you? 18%. How did I know 18%? Because you take 100% minus 82 is 18%. So that's a quick discussion on percentiles. Now, in order to create a box and whisker plot, we need to be able to calculate what are called quartiles. Now, when I see the word quartiles, I think of quarters. 4 quarters make $1. So that's what we're doing here. We are taking our data values and dividing them up into 4 equal parts. So here are my 4 equal parts. 25% of my data values would fall into each section. Now, these numbers down here called quartiles are very important to be able to calculate. The first one you always calculate is that cuts your data in half, 50% below, 50% above. That's your median. So you find the median. Once you have done that, then you take those numbers below that and calculate their median, and that gives you quartile 1. Then you take the numbers that fall above quartile 2, calculate that median, and that gives you quartile 3. And then what you will use to create your box and whisker is what we call the 5-number summary. That's your quartile 1, 2, and 3, but it's also your smallest value and your largest value. So we're going to go to an example. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, so what we're going to look at right now is how to find the 5-number summary, because that is what you will be asked to do, and then I'll show you how to create a box and whisker. So here's my set of data values, and again, quartiles divides these numbers into 4 equal parts. I have 9 numbers. The first quartile we'll calculate is quartile 2, so that deals with the median. So that's why over here, I'll go back to our discussion on the location of the median. If you recall, that is n plus 1 divided by 2. There are 9 data values, so 9 plus 1 divided by 2. So that I add that and I get 5. So that tells me that my median is the 5th value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This value right here, 15, is my quartile 2. Now, to calculate quartile 1, I take all the numbers that fall below this. So that would be your 4, 7, 8, and 12. What I'm going to do here is calculate the median, which would be averaging these two numbers. So 7 plus 8 is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. So quartile 1 is 7.5. To find quartile 3, I take all the numbers that fall above quartile 2, which is another 15, 21, 21, 22, and I find that median, which would be adding these two numbers up and dividing by 2, which would give you 21. Now, my smallest data value is the 4. My largest data value is the 22. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is my 5-number summary. Now, be sure that your numbers are in order. In notes, I've already placed them in order, but if any problems from the book or homework or anything, they're not in order, you'll need to do that first. Otherwise, you will not get the correct median. All right, here's a second example. Now, in this set, we have a total of 10 numbers, so I need to find the median. Location would be 10 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 5.5. So that tells me that the median is between the 5th and the 6th number. And again, these are already in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So quartile 2 is found between here, so I would take 14 plus 16 divided by 2, and that would give me 15. Then, so right here at 15 is where quartile 2 is. So for quartile 1, I use the numbers 4, 7, 8, 12, and 14. What number's in the middle? 8. That's easy to find. Then quartile 3, I use the numbers above quartile 2, so that would be 16, 21, 21, 22, 25. What number's in the middle? That 21. So my smallest value is 4. My largest value is 25. So 4, 25, 8, 15, and 21 is my 5-number summary. Now, I want to give you one more example before we actually do an example where we create the box and whisker, because this can sometimes happen and it sometimes confuses students. All right, in this case we have 6 numbers. So the median location would be 6 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So it's between the third and the fourth number, 1, 2, 3. It's between the third and the fourth number. All right, so the median is 10 plus 10 divided by 2, which is 10. Now, the median is what cuts it in half. So quartile 2 is between those two 10s. And that's where you have to be careful, because when you calculate quartile 1, you will use the 7, the 8, and the 10, because our quartile 2 actually falls between those two 10s. So in this case, I would use 8. Then for quartile 3, I would use the other 10, the 13, and the 19, and the number in the middle is 13. So my smallest value in this case is 7, my largest is 19, so my 5-number summary is 7, 19, 8, 10, and 13. So now those are some of the different scenarios that can occur. So now what I want to do is look at an example that we find the 5-number summary, and then we take it one step further and we actually create the box and whisker. All right, so in this case I have 12 numbers. Again, they're already in order. Make sure that yours are. So the location would be 12 plus 1 divided by 2, which is 6.5. So that tells me the median is between the 6th and the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So quartile 2 is between these two numbers. So to find quartile 2, I would take 5 plus 6 divided by 2, and that gives me 5.5. Then quartile 1, so there's quartile 2. So quartile 1, I use 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, and the 5. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the median is found by taking 3 plus 4 divided by 2, which is 3.5. Quartile 3, I need the numbers above quartile 2, so that's 6, 9, 13, 14, 17, and 25. Sorry, I'm running out of real estate. And to find that median, I take 13 plus 14 divided by 2 and get 13.5. My smallest value is 2, and my largest value is 25. All right, so my 5-number summary that I'm going to plot on the box and whisker are these 5 numbers. So I'm going to show you how to place those 5 numbers on a box and whisker. If you will go down, you'll find a number line. Now, I've already put from 2, which was the smallest number, and I went up to 26 because I was going by 2s. So what I'm going to do is locate my numbers. So the first number is the smallest data value, which is 2. Now, I do not put the box and whisker on the number line. I put it above it. So here at the 2, and then I have a 25. Then I have quartile 1 is 3.5. So there's 2, 3, between the 3 and the 4, there would be 3.5. and then quartile 2 was 5.5, and then quartile 3 was 13.5. Now, there's my 5-number summary. Now, box and whisker. Here's where your whisker comes from. The smallest value to quartile 1. That's a whisker. Your other whisker is quartile 3 to the largest value. Now, notice how much longer this whisker is than this one. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Then from quartile 1 to quartile 3, you create a box. And then here is quartile 2, and that's where you put a vertical line. Now notice we have this in 4 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. The number of data values is the same. You have just as many data values in this small whisker as you do this long whisker. And it just tells me that this half of the data is more spread out than this half. And it gives me a visual on that with my box and whisker. The only other thing that you're going to be asked to calculate is what is called the interquartile range, and that's just by taking quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So in our example, quartile 3 was 13.5 minus quartile 1 was 3.5. So the IQR interquartile range is 10. That is 3.3.